Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Nathan Fox. That's Ben Olson. We're the founders of LSATdemon.com and our weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We've got an email here from Anthony.
Ben and Nathan, I'll keep this shorter than my last email. Okay, it's looking a little long. Anthony.
It's really long, and that first sentence isn't making it any shorter, but okay, go ahead.
Yep. I really tried my best to follow your advice. January was the earliest one I could sign up for, but I was careful to avoid any big ramp up to the test. I studied modestly and was doing well. When I took the test, there were minor technical difficulties, but I shook those off and felt great about the first half of my LR and RC sections. After the break, I felt decent about the second RC section and most of the games, but the very last game on the test was one I hadn't prepared for. I know you guys don't emphasize game types or anything, but this particular one is rare, and I had only ever come across it once before in my studying, so I hadn't thought to study for it in January.
Can I interrupt?
Go ahead.
This is somebody who's clearly not prepared for the test. You're not ready for the test, dude. You're not ready. You don't really understand what, like, it doesn't sound like you actually even know how to prepare for the test. Like, if you think that you need to be studying for particular logic games types, then you don't get it. You're not listening to our number one piece of advice about the games, which is essentially they are giving you all the information you need to solve this puzzle. You need to improvise a solution. Stop thinking about the types. Listen to what they're saying. Think about the system. Solve the system. You do not have to have any prior knowledge of systems of this type. And so you're missing like the number one most important thing about the logic games, which is remember they are always 100% solvable. They've given you everything you need. You just have to look for the bottlenecks and sort it out. And you know, you're going into this test I know that you're not going to do as well as you could do. Because you're just not that good at it. But anyway, go ahead.
That's -5 at most, though, so I clearly must have done worse in the other sections I felt good about.
But you didn't, though. You said you felt great about the first half of the LR and RC sections.
Yeah.
So, and why are you even having those feelings? Or why are you... That's not relevant. Like, that's not something that you should be thinking about. You should be doing one question at a time. You should be losing yourself in it.
An oversight on my part, to be sure, Anthony continues, and I paid for it. I got a 170, worse than my 171 in September. I've been going -0 to -4 in all my time sections leading up to the January test. I didn't do any full test because I know myself and know that a disappointing score would have thrown me off my game, and your advice focused heavily on being in the right headspace. It sounds like you need to take a test and feel what it feels like to see things go up and down and then embrace that. In practice, I handle it really well, but on the full test, for whatever reason, I can't seem to pull it off no matter how calm or great I feel about it. Is this score variance, or have I just been punching above my weight on practice material?
Probably just score variance. Could be you're doing a lot of weird thinking on the actual test. I mean, you're like assessing your performance. And for me, I can't, like, I remember when I was doing the actual LSAT, I was so lost in one question at a time that I would just like finish the section. And if you asked me what was on the section or how I did on the section or whatever, I would have gone, I don't know. I figured them out. I answered the questions. I think I got them right. I don't know. But I'm not going to be like, oh, I think I did great on the first half of it, and I'm not sure how I did on the second. I'm not doing that kind of meta cognitive shit. I'm just solving the questions one at a time.
Well, there's something here too about Anthony's focus on being in the right headspace. We do think it's good to have a good mindset, but part of that mindset is not this obsession itself with your mindset. Like that seems to almost miss the point. It's it's like trying to be calm while you're meditating and getting frustrated that you're not calm, or it's like you're missing the underlying message. You said the same thing about games, right? You said, hey, Anthony, you don't seem to be getting the big message that we have about games, which is you just have to solve the system. You don't need to be studying types. And so he's hearing us talk about headspace, and he's hearing that he needs to be in the right mindset.
Yeah.
But the mindset that he's in, by giving that itself so much weight, is the wrong mindset.
Yeah. And logic games is more important than it has ever been. Logic games used to count for only 25% of the test. Logic games now counts for 33% of the test, roughly. And you're not perfect on the games. You're not good enough at the games. So you're saying, oh, that's a -5 at most. Well, okay, but if you're trying to score in the 170s, missing 5 questions on the games is not something that you can afford to do.
No, you would get an astronomically higher score in at that level. Yeah.
Right. Those 5 additional questions could have been enough to get you a 177. I mean, it's a skinny, once you get up above 170, every question correct it's going to give you 1 and sometimes 2 LSAT points. There's places now that get skipped in the scale. It's like, oh, you can't even get a 175. It's a 174. And if you get 1 more right, you get a 176.
Yeah.
And so those 5, you can't afford to lose those 5 if you're trying to score in the 170s. You got to get better at the games. You got to let go of your obsession with preparing for certain game types and instead just do all of the games and realize, there's nothing really new here anyway.
You can do this, Anthony. You can be the boss of the games and the test as a whole. So.
Yeah.
Anthony continues, I'm not sure what to do from here. Since I took August, September, and January, the soonest I could take again would be August. Okay, so he used up his 3 attempts in the cycle, which goes from goes from August to June. So the next test he could take is in August. I want to apply next cycle if possible. Should I aim for August and possibly September? Would they be too late in the cycle? Part of me really wants to be greedy, take it 5 times if necessary, and do whatever has to be done to get in the high 170s. I've got the scores I've gotten on multiple practice tests. This most recent failure stung, and it makes me feel like maybe 171 is as good as it's going to get.
Stop it. That's bullshit. If you can do it on practice tests, you can do it on the real thing.
Absolutely. And here's something that you need to get into your head. You don't need to think about the next steps. You only have to think about August and taking the test the next time you're ready. And then once you take it, well, you probably need to think about signing up for September. So sign up for September. But what will happen after you get an amazing score back in August? What if you get a 177 back? Then you're like, sweet, I'm applying. What if you get a 171 again? Then you're taking it in September. Don't worry about the future. Just worry about your next step.
Yeah, your next step is to get better at the logic games. You need to get to the point where games is the foundation of your score, where you go, games, I'm perfect, man. 23 out of 23 every single time. That's the price of admission these days if you're going to score 175. If you're not killing the games, you're not scoring 175.
Yep.
So you've got to get better at the games to where you can do that no matter what they throw at you. I guarantee that rare game was perfectly solvable. You panicked because it was a type you didn't understand and you just got them all wrong. Apparently you should have been able to improvise something and sort it out there.
Yeah. Anthony continues, Harvard and Chicago have been my targets from the beginning, and now it just feels like I deluded myself into thinking it was possible. Where do I go from here? If you have the GPA, I guess maybe Anthony told us his GPA in the last email. I don't know. But if you have the GPA to get into Harvard and Chicago, and you have the practice test scores in the high 170s, you are not deluding yourself. You can go to these schools. Would you rather go to Harvard 2 years from now or some other school a year from now?
Well, also, I'm just not that worried about August and September. If it's your 4th and 5th attempt, I feel like that's still plenty early in the cycle. Like
Yeah.
what I hate is people who for their first attempt are like, oh, well, I'm going to take it in October. I'm going to take it in, or August and September is also still pretty bad. My first attempt is in August, and then I'm trying to apply in that same cycle. Well, not really, because you might need 3-4 more attempts at the LSAT. 1, 2, 3, 4 more attempts at the LSAT. So Anthony at least got started way early. Might have taken the LSAT before he was really ready on some of these previous attempts. I don't really know, right? But all that is water under the bridge. You have been clearly preparing, Anthony. You've been scoring in the 170s regularly. You got to get a little bit better at the games between here and August. But yeah, you should plan on killing it in August and September and applying right away. That's totally fine.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I want to push. I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's very possible for Anthony to take the test in August and September and apply this year. But to do that as best as Anthony possibly can and give himself the best chance for getting in the high 170s, I think he needs to give up this timeline so that he can keep the timeline. I think giving it up is what allows him to relax, focus on getting the best possible score he can in the games, getting it to -0.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it seems very likely, I mean, it's February, that he's going to accomplish all of that by August and September. But I think he's more likely to accomplish it if he's willing to release this unnecessary and arbitrary goal to start this year.
Yeah, because it seems like he already fucked himself on the previous attempts, right?
Like he was
in
trying
August and September trying to force in an application that cycle. That didn't work out. Took it in January, like, oh, well, I've already, probably the situation was like, well, my applications are already in. Let me take it in January and see if I can. And then, he scores lower because he's trying to force something. Now he really wants to apply next cycle. And there's no reason why that can't work. But you got to get better at the logic games, though. Like that shit don't lie. So you've got to become perfect every single time at the logic games. That's what you should be thinking about right now.
Yep.
And then you got to treat those tests.
Don't worry about anything else.
Yeah. Treat the test in August like it's just another practice test. Treat the test in September like it's just another practice test. We do have the 5 times in 5 year rule that, at that point you're going to be locked out of the test.
Yep.
So those are your last 2 attempts for the foreseeable future. You just got to make sure that you're really ready. And then when you're really ready, you get to treat it like it's just another practice test and have fun with it.
Yep. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.